Reading from the CDC on people with disabilities and COVID-19. COVID-19 is a new disease, and we are still learning how it spreads, the severity of illness it causes, and to what extent it may spread in the US. Disability alone may not be related to higher risk for getting COVID or having severe illness. Most people with disabilities are not inherently at risk for becoming infected with or having severe illness from COVID. However, some people with disabilities might be at a higher risk of infection or severe illness because of the underlying medical conditions. All people seem to be at higher risk of severe illness from COVID-19 if they have serious underlying chronic medical conditions like chronic lung disease, heart condition, or a weakened immune system. Adults with disabilities are 3 times more likely than adults without disabilities to have heart disease, stroke, diabetes, or cancer than adults without disabilities. So that's where the risk comes in.
Yeah.
But then also, and I imagine it's going to go on to explain that like people that are disabled and need assistance, like with their daily lives, that's probably gotten way harder. I can imagine. Have you heard anything about that, Matt? Like people just having their getting help.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a huge shortage of healthcare workers right now, and in terms of people who would normally, people who are the kind of like lower rung of the service industry are, a lot of them are getting sick because they're constantly exposed. Like people who work in nursing homes, hospice units, things like that aren't necessarily in hospitals, but they may as well be. And because they're not in hospitals and not directly treating COVID patients, they're not getting the big bump of PPE that people in hospitals are.
Yeah.
So they're actually getting they're getting pretty high rates of exposure, and a lot of them are getting sick and either losing their jobs or if nothing else, just taking off time. So yeah, there's a big shortage right now. There's the other thing to be considered is when people talk about being immunocompromised, that's something that probably a good 75% of people with physical disabilities, maybe even more, are technically immunocompromised. Even if they don't have lung conditions or they don't have like an autoimmune disorder per se, pretty much anyone with a chronic pain disorder or anyone with any kind of arthritis, basically anyone who's going to be dependent on anti-inflammatories is going to have essentially a compromised immune system.
Wow.
Because if you're taking steroids, if you're taking NSAIDs, even if you're, if you remember, they had issued a warning for people to stop taking ibuprofen and switch to acetaminophen, which is fine for pain relief. But if you have chronic inflammation, like if you have rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, any kind of like inflammatory bowel disease, all of those, they can't just be controlled with Tylenol. They need some sort of anti-inflammatory, and the anti-inflammatories essentially work by suppressing the immune system. So everyone with one of those chronic diseases is at a higher risk for getting COVID, and it's really kind of a nightmare for a lot of people.
That's not something I would have thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a lot that goes into I'm disabled, but I'm not like severely physically disabled, and I still recognize the amount of extra support and resources and everything and just knowledge on what's going on day to day in order to live somewhat of a functional life and not suffer all the time. So I can imagine what it's like for people that I can almost imagine. I can't really imagine what it's like for people that are living with severe disabilities every day.
One of the things that I was just thinking about, which I mean, I would imagine would be one of the first things to come to mind, is just the amount of cross contamination with a healthcare worker working with disabled individuals, especially if they are in a hospital environment from time to time. That's got to be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely doesn't seem like a good situation for anybody. And really with any situation that's negative for the average person, it's going to be much, much worse for a disabled person. Just the way the confluence of circumstances come together around them. So, or us. I'm looking at the Disability Rights Fund right now.
You said the Disability Rights Fund?
Yeah, .org / COVID-19. Okay, cool. Yeah, this has links to various resources with additional information on disability inclusive responses to COVID.
Wow. This looks pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, this is a great website. I'm saving this.
It even has like just basic reading material and
Yep.